Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Retirement Compass, the show that helps you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and joining me in the studio are two members from Stonebridge Wealth Systems. We have the co-founder, Tim Kulhanek, and partner, Jeremy Gove. We've got an important conversation for you today. The title of this episode is the $1 trillion dilemma, how unpaid caregiving is changing retirement for an entire generation. You're going to want to stick with us to find out more. Tim, Jeremy, so good to be here with you as it is each and every week. And before we get into this subject, which is a little on the heavy side today, right? One of the things that I would love for you to be able to share with our viewers is just the expanded reach that your TV show is having. You're getting a lot of great response. And talk about some of the most popular subjects that have gotten folks to really, take action and come in to meet with you all.
Yeah, there's been a few. One, estate planning and taxes and questions about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which we did like a series on.
Yep.
The other one that's actually gotten probably the most traction and most response from our audience has been our show that we did on the state of Nebraska. And like if you retire from working at the state of Nebraska or working for the county and how the state cash balance or county cash balance plan works, the state annuity. It's something that we deal with a lot, especially being in our Lincoln and Omaha markets. But across all four of our offices, we see that a lot. And so we've had a big influx of folks who are planning to retire or have recently retired from the state or the county saying, hey, this is exactly what I was looking for. Somebody who had a tool, a strategy that was designed specifically for me in my unique retirement scenario. And that's been a lot of fun to be able to help guide those folks to making good decisions.
That's awesome. And Jeremy, from your appointments that you've had, what's some of the most common feedback you're hearing regarding viewers of the show?
Well, they really appreciate that we're doing it. That we're talking about these topics. There's not really a place that you can go and learn about this stuff where you can actually go sit down with the person that you're watching online, because that's the challenge that I see when anytime I'm doing research on things. You hear you should always do this or you should always do that, but I can't go talk to that person. And so that's what's nice. People can watch us on the show, learn a little bit about the topic, and then come in and sit down and talk to one of our advisors and learn more about it in person.
Right.
So that's what I think everybody appreciates.
For sure. And because again, the right answer for them is often it depends. And until they sit down with you guys, they're not going to know what the right course of action specifically is for their situation. For our viewers who might have missed some of those previous episodes, where can they access them?
Yeah, you can go to our website, StonebridgeIWM.com, or you can simply look up our YouTube channel. So we're on YouTube, Stonebridge Wealth Systems, find our channel, and all of our shows are available free of charge. There's no cost, there's no paywall or anything like that. Like and subscribe. We've always, be welcome to have more people following our page, so that way when we have additional shows that are launched and uploaded, but they can go either place and find their way to the entire catalog.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I can't believe it's been over 2.5 years now that we've been doing this show together. It's such a privilege to get to serve the great state of Nebraska and this entire region with both of you guys. So thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Well, talking about subjects that people want to know more about, today's subject is a little bit more heavy, but we have to talk about it because it's a problem that is impacting over 64 million Americans, and that is unpaid caregiving. So to set the stage, this problem now impacts 20 million more Americans than it did a decade ago, and we can attribute the baby boomer generation to hitting, that's going on. But it's only expected to rise as the number of U.S. adults age 85 and older triples by the year 2050. I mean, talk about a massive shift, right? Yeah. And so this problem, according to recent reports from AARP and the National Partnership for Families and Women, is costing the U.S. economy somewhere between $600 billion and $1 trillion per year. Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of issues from a monetary standpoint, which we will get into today. Yeah. But also, there's the problem of the emotional and physical, not just financial consequences of unpaid caregiving. And currently, there is 1 in 4 American adults are working as a caregiver for a chronically ill person, and over 80% of these caregivers are completely unpaid. So what's going on here? Because based on those stats, folks watching are raising their hand right now going, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I mean, we can say with pretty much mathematical certainty, there's a good number of the people watching this show right now that this is their reality. And the thing that they'll probably be the first to tell you is unplanned healthcare expenses and things like this doesn't typically give you much forewarning. It kind of shows up unexpectedly. Sometimes it's coming, but you never know that time when it's going to be like, I can no longer continue to work full time or do the things I need to do for my family because I've got a chronically ill person that I love and care about that I need to care for. And it can be a difficult topic because it tends to be something people prefer to avoid. No one likes the idea of paying for something that they hope they never have to experience or use. So a lot of people are unprepared for this. That was illustrated by a 2024 survey by the Centers for Retirement Research at the University, or it's Boston College University, or I guess it would just be Boston College. They found that 60% of respondents of this survey indicated that they simply plan to just rely on Medicaid, so rely on the government in order to provide the assistance they need if they need any sort of long-term care, which is kind of a shocking and terrifying statistic.
Well, and we need to talk about this because that is a common misconception that either Medicaid and or Medicare will cover this type of care because it does not. So talk about that.
Yeah, well, so Medicaid does cover some long-term care expenses, but Medicare does not. Usually you have 20 days. There's some provisions in there, but not generally a lot. So in the state of Nebraska, Medicaid is not really something that you want to go on to because you can have a total of $4,000 in assets. Total.
That's it.
Per person.
So you basically have to be completely destitute to qualify.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And so that is what it's built for. It's a safety net, right? So it's there for that. There are most states will have some sort of spousal impoverishment provisions built into that. So if you're married, there's some additional things that they allow to have happen, but for the most part, it's $4,000 of assets per person. So that's not a lot.
Right. Yeah. Right? So it makes sense. So most people are not qualifying for Medicaid. Medicare doesn't cover long-term care. Yep. A lot of folks are blindsided, not properly prepared for long-term care costs. To your point, traditional long-term care insurance, a lot of people were like, I don't want to pay for something if I don't know that I'm going to use it. And if I don't use it, I lose it, because that's how those traditional policies were. Now we have the influx of folks being, enormous population over the age of 85. Yep. Folks are living longer than they ever have before. So hence the rise of unpaid caregivers. So who are these unpaid caregivers? What is that looking like?
So a lot of the people that are unpaid caregivers, it's typically a family member, but let's talk about who they're caring for. So the recipient, the person that's receiving that care, according to an AARP study, they face multiple challenges, health challenges, right? So we're not just caring for somebody that's just sick with the flu. They're chronically ill, so there's multiple issues that they're facing. So in 2025, roughly half of the recipients are 75 plus, and 70% of those recipients are 65 plus. So they're older people that are getting care. Now, 8% of the recipients are between the age of 18 and 34. And if you think about 8%, that's a pretty big number that is in that age group, right? Now, at the same time, that age group, the 18, I'm sorry, did I say 8? It's 18 to 34. Right. 18% of those people that are in that age group are actually the caregivers. So if you think about that, you're trying to navigate a lot of different things. Sometimes those individuals are referred to as being part of the sandwich generation, right? So they may be caring for, an elderly parent, but they also may still have kids at home or that are, need care as well. So the challenge that I think a lot of people have is being an unpaid caregiver, and if I'm younger and I'm trying to navigate school, I'm trying to plan for a family, I'm trying to get off the ground myself, and then I'm not getting paid for taking care of these for my parents or whoever I might be taking care of. Yeah. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge.
It's a huge challenge, and I think the hardest part is a lot of folks want to be able to do that, right? They love their loved ones. They don't want to leave them destitute. They want to care. But the issue is it's a trickle-down effect. It's creating a lot of additional problems for especially folks who are in the sandwich generation, caring for aging relatives or folks who are incapacitated. It doesn't have to necessarily be aging, but caring for loved ones, and then you're also trying to care for your own children at home. It's such an important conversation to have. Clearly, it's affecting more and more Americans. What do you want to leave our viewers with as we wrap up the first part of this discussion?
I was on the phone the other day. I got a phone call from a client, and she's living this in real time, in real life. And the reason she called was because she wanted to discuss what the game plan was for next year for the income that they're going to need to provide for the care that her husband's receiving. He's in a facility in the Lincoln area, and the cost is $530 a day. And if you do the math on that, yes, you're right. If you're trying to do that in your head and you're a math whiz, that's $16,000 roughly per month. They spent already this past year $189,000 on healthcare expenses. She still lives at home, so they've still got all the household expenses that go with that to make sure that the heat stays on, the pipes don't freeze, you don't get a burst pipe, and you don't have a whole mess. And as she spoke, I noticed that her voice cracked, and she said, Tim, what are we going to do? And am I going to be okay? Because we don't know how long they'll need to continue paying for this type of care. And there's some questions that I don't have exact 100% certainty on because we don't know what the future holds. But what I do know, and what I told her was, listen, your plan has been mathematically tested. We prepared for this. When you came in, we knew that this was a possibility because of his condition. And I've built this into your plan. And even if he continues to need this assistance for the next 2-3 years, your plan still tests out that you're going to be okay. We've stress tested this. We know that if this goes on for 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to be okay. We know that if the market goes up, goes down, goes sideways, we're going to have bear markets, bull markets, pullbacks, swings. We've prepared for all those potential different outcomes that could come along in the years to come. And you can continue with confidence and focus on making sure that he gets the care he needs and not feel guilty or like some burden that you should be taking care of him at home, and progress this way, which is the right way because he's where he needs to be. And I could just kind of feel the weight come off of her shoulders. If that's a situation you find yourself in, or if you know someone potentially who's gone through that, that'd be a reason you'd want to call that number you see on your screen right now and just visit with one of our experienced advisors. It could be a 15-minute phone call, no cost, no obligation, but at least find out where you're at and say, hey, listen, I heard the guys on TV. I want to get my plan stress tested so I know that if the unplanned happens and I have some sort of chronic health condition or my family does, I can know with clarity that I'm going to be okay as well.
Tim, Jeremy, thank you. I'm so glad we're having this important conversation because this does affect millions of people, and I appreciate that you treat it with such care and compassion and really meet people where they're at, because it's about creating solutions, right? We can't always control what life does, and life happens and the unexpected is going to be there, but there's such peace of mind that can come and such confidence and clarity when you have a plan in place, especially before that day comes, if that's possible. So we encourage you to reach out to the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems and start your journey by receiving your very own complimentary written financial plan. 866-256-7778 is the number to call to schedule yours. Or if you'd rather connect online, simply scan that QR code. That will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more on this important subject matter and what it means for you and your loved ones right after this.
My story started when I was in college. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew it was going to be in the financial industry. I took a lot of accounting and finance classes. I thought I'd probably work in like a bigger company and work my way through maybe the accounting department. But then when I was doing a internship the summer before my senior year, I walked into a business. I was trying to sell magazine ads. I don't know if I call it magazine ads, but basically ad space in the back of the UNK student handbook and planner, which was a difficult sell because, nobody uses pen and paper planners anymore, at least not college students. But I made my best pitch to some financial advisors. I happened to be Scott Noctegal that I met with that day. When I went for the close and tried to see if he was ready to sign up for some ad space, he said, yeah, no, I'm not interested in that, but it takes a lot of courage to have somebody to be willing to walk into a business, especially a business that really doesn't cater to your target audience, to put yourself out there in a way that the odds of you being successful are probably pretty low. That's the type of person we'd be looking for at our firm. Have you decided what you want to do? And I said, no, I really haven't, but I know I want to work with finance because I like numbers, and math's always been my favorite subject, and working with kind of complex equations, almost like a puzzle. And so that's really where it all began.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass. I'm Kristin Oakley, here with both Tim and Jeremy from Stonebridge Wealth Systems, and we're so glad that you're spending this time with us today. If you're just tuning in, we are having a very important conversation about the $1 trillion dilemma, how unpaid caregiving is rewriting the rules of retirement. And during the break, we were just stressing again these statistics that we want to make sure you're aware of in case you are just tuning in. Somewhere around 11 million Americans, and get this, between the ages of 18 and 34 are currently providing care to someone who's chronically ill. And when I first read that and we talked about it, that seems so young, but you are seeing this. I know you have examples of where this is happening. And the problem is, it's not just the financial strain, but a lot of times these adult children are in that sandwich generation. They're not just caring for aging relatives or folks who are chronically ill, they're also trying to raise their own families. I mean, this is where the squeeze is really happening.
Yeah, exactly. An interesting part of that study from AARP, 36% of the caregivers are actually paid. 27% of them are unpaid. So if you think about, that's basically 1 in 3 that are actually providing that care and they're not getting paid to do that.
Right.
It's a big burden.
It is a huge burden. Again, they may want to do it, but that doesn't negate the burden that it causes. And if we just strictly talk about the financial burden of that study showed that almost half the family caregivers experience at least one negative financial impact due to their care responsibilities. What are some examples of that financial negative impact?
Well, if you think about why do you have vacation pay? It's to take a vacation, right? A lot of these caregivers are actually taking vacation to take their chronically ill parent or child to a doctor. So they're using their sick leave, they're using their paid vacation to actually take care of them.
Right, yeah.
So you're not enjoying the vacation that you should be enjoying. So as you mentioned, it does put a monumental strain. It's not just a physical strain of caring for them. It's not just a financial strain, but it's also an emotional strain as well.
Oh, for sure. And it can age you as the caregiver very quickly. Also, it could mean time where you have to take a leave of absence. Well, now you're having less wages, less paid into Social Security, right? I mean, there's just a lot of different compounding effects. But then you were talking earlier, Tim, and I want to go back to this too, about addressing the fact that there's the emotional strain. You really do take unpaid caregiving into consideration when you're building financial plans for someone. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Because again, it's an unknown, right?
Yeah, and you see we could call it a domino or a trickle-down effect, because overall of the roughly 64 million Americans that are providing care to a chronically ill person, I think something like 46% of them are unpaid, right? And not to be confused with the study or the stats that Jeremy gave, which that was the percentage of them that are part of the sandwich generation and are paid and unpaid, right? So a good portion of them are caring for children and aging adults, but overall, 46 million, the vast majority not getting, it's zilch, zero. Right. So the impact, Mary in California, she was quoted in this study. I had to give up a prosperous career and took 2 jobs to work around their schedule. I took a 90% pay cut and lived out of my savings, which has now been depleted. So the reality is 31% have stopped saving of those that are unpaid caregivers.
Like saving for retirement, right?
Yep. Because again, the 35 to 44, 9.2% of them say that it has a very high financial strain versus only 5% for those who are 70 or 65 plus. Why? Because they already did the saving.
Right.
They made it through and were able to save. It's the people that are in this supposed to be the prime of their career.
Years. Yes. Right. Yep.
That are being impacted the most. 24% have used up all their short-term savings, an emergency fund for replacing the hot water heater, the roof, the furnace, the air conditioner. It's gone. Need a new car, get ready to pay 9% interest because you don't have your car fund anymore. 13% stopped saving for education for their children. 23% took on additional debt. 14% said they were unable to afford basic expenses like food. 14%, they can't buy food. And tragically, 9% either put off retirement or gave up on it completely. 3% filed for bankruptcy. It's a devastating impact.
It is. It's tragic. And this is a huge problem that is facing millions of Americans. And that's why we want to talk about it. We don't want to just be Debbie Downers here. There is hope, and I know we are always about solutions on this show. So what's the silver lining of all this?
That you can plan for this. There's strategies and solutions available, repurposing old life insurance policies, reallocating old annuities that you put money into that you didn't like because you didn't work out the way you thought it would. There's things you can do, and leveraging the tax code to use money that otherwise would have been taxable as income to you. Had you taken it out, that could be tax-free as long as it's used for long-term care purposes. And if you never need the money, okay, great, you never needed any sort of long-term care, this money's gonna go to your family, right? And in some cases, tax-free if it's done correctly. The problem is only 8%, according to recent reports, of U.S. families have allocated any resources, any at all, towards long-term care, insurance, or strategies. And what we've seen in our offices, many are now experiencing incredibly high premium increases. The ones that did plan, they thought they did the right thing. They bought those traditional policies 20 years ago, and now they're getting priced out of them. But here's kind of what I think the long-term problem is, because you try to plan for these things, but when do these types of events show up typically?
When you least expect it or when you're not prepared for it at all.
Yeah, and I think we have a graphic that'll show you exactly how they show up, if we can get that pulled on the screen. Kind of like this guy. Unplanned and uninvited. Think back to this movie. Clark Griswold says he is a DIY master, and he was going to put 250 strands of lights, 100 individual bulbs per strand, for a grand total of 25,000 imported Italian twinkle lights on his roof. Look, DIY projects, they can be a lot of fun when you choose to do them. When it's something that you say, I want to do this, repainting a room, refinishing a table, building a deck, putting lights up on the house, I enjoy doing that. But imagine if your DIY hobby became a mandatory unpaid demand, and it required you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's what's happening to a lot of these folks, is because they're having to become an expert immediately in something, because if you don't become an expert, if you don't figure out how to do this right away and do it well, someone you love could face real harm, right? There's real consequences to this. And at Stonebridge, we think that a balanced, comprehensive approach to retirement that looks at all 5 key areas of planning, not just talking about your investments. I know you've been through that. If you've ever met with a financial advisor, they've spent a lot of time talking about what you're doing wrong. I want to talk about how we can optimize your plan and find synergism between income, investment, tax, healthcare, and legacy, and make sure that everybody's rowing in the same direction. That's what our experienced advisors at Stonebridge can do for you. It starts with a phone call to the number you see on the bottom of your screen now.
Wonderful. Tim, Jeremy, thank you so much. The reality is, if you're already working with another financial professional and they're not having these kinds of conversations with you, you owe it to yourself to make sure that all aspects of your financial plan are covered, especially if this is something that you are struggling with in your own family. So we encourage you to reach out to the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems. It's no charge to do so, but you will be able to receive that complimentary written financial plan. That number to call to schedule yours is 866-256-7778. Or again, if you'd rather connect online, simply scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. When we come back, we're going to talk about more real-life solutions to help protect you and your loved ones from this $1 trillion dilemma right after this.
You know, if you think about the average American consumer, we don't talk about financial topics very often. And so we spend a lot of time at Stonebridge doing educational seminars and different things that are free of charge. If you're not educated in a topic, how do you make educated decisions? When you're working with a client, you're sitting down with them, they're a little stressed out, but after you go through the process and you really take time to educate them on not only what we're doing for them, but why we're doing it, that really gives them peace of mind, and you can see the weight just kind of drops. And when they leave, I hear all the time,
I really should have done this years ago. But sometimes there's a fear that somebody might try to sell us something. If the things that I can provide, if you don't want, don't need, or can't use those, I've got some good news for you. We're not going to sell them to you. We are fulfilling our fiduciary duty of putting their interests ahead of our own.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass, where today Tim, Jeremy, and I are having a very heartfelt conversation about the $1 trillion dilemma, the fact that we have almost 50 million Americans who are working as unpaid caregivers, caring for loved ones who are chronically ill, and the impacts of that, not just financially, but emotionally as well. I'm curious because, again, it's important to have this conversation. It's affecting a lot of people. Jeremy, from your perspective, what are some key takeaways that you hope our audience will walk away with as a result of watching today's conversation?
the bottom line is there are solutions, right? There are solutions out there. So according to the Federal Reserve, there's roughly $2.6 trillion in cash value in life insurance. That includes permanent life insurance like universal life, whole life. And so one great idea that we use a lot is repurposing those dollars. So if I have life insurance, why do you buy life insurance? Typically it's to replace income, or it might be part of my legacy plan. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not needing to replace income because I'm 65 or older, I might have or I don't need to replace income because my debts are paid off, or for whatever purpose it was there for, I can repurpose those dollars, and I can use hybrid products that are actually built to help cover long-term care expenses and things like that. And so that's one of the easy things that we look at right away. And then there's a lot of other solutions that we can talk about at a one-on-one meeting as well.
But you were saying earlier to me, Tim, that this is, in your opinion, one of the most untapped resources and one of the biggest opportunities that folks have to solve this dilemma is with these old insurance policies, correct?
Yeah, because if there's 2.6 trillion in reserves in U.S. life insurance companies, like we don't know for sure how much of that is available because it could be some of that's newer policies, but a lot of those were issued back in the 80s and 90s. And like I was talking to a guy the other day, and I was talking about I don't know what company it was for sure, big life insurer, we know their name, A-rated, lots of commercials on TV. I said, what is the purpose of purchasing this? And he's like, it's supposed to be a supplement to our retirement, but it ain't gonna supplement any retirement. If we take the money, there's not enough money in there. Didn't work out the way they had planned. One gal came in, she had $280,000 death benefit, and there's $130,000 in cash value. I'll give you the Cliffs Notes version. Essentially what happened is I said, look, what's the purpose of this? They're like, well, we don't really have a purpose anymore. It was gonna be supplemental for retirement. There's not enough money in there. The net amount at risk for the insurance company is $150,000, because if you die, the insurance company will keep your $130,000 in cash value. They'll pay the $280 out. The difference is $150,000, right? So what we did, the long and short is, we took that $130,000, we moved it into a new life insurance policy. Okay, so she still has life insurance. Her death benefit goes down, so it went down to like $156,000. But that was the net amount at risk anyway, right? It was technically, that was her life insurance she had, because the rest was her money. So we used her money, essentially, at $130,000 as a down payment on a long-term care policy that says, hey, this $130,000 that's yours, if you die 30 years from now, peacefully in your sleep, having never needed any sort of assistance, I've got good news for you. Because you never had to live with the thought of paying for something you hope you never needed, because that death benefit's gonna go to your loved ones. And if you do need any sort of assistance, like long-term care, what Jeremy and I have been talking about today, it'll pay, by the time she's 85, $11,700 a month tax-free for up to 5 years. Those are the solutions we're talking about, folks. We're running out of time. Please give that number a call. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Wonderful. Tim, Jeremy, thank you. The good news is there are solutions available, so we encourage you to reach out to the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems today. 866-256-7778 is the number to call. Be blessed. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time here on the Retirement Compass.